This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good evening, Tuscaloosa. Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. West Alabama, Internet world. How are you doing out there? This is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. Of course, I am Joe Gaither, your host. You're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on Amazon, or you're watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, or on Twitter at Joe Gaither6 and at BamaCentral. For all your social media needs, you can find us right there. Send me your comments, questions, queries, and complaints. It is a Friday show. I apologize. I was not on yesterday. I enjoyed a day off for the first time in a while. Thank you so much to Chris Walsh. It's been crazy following the Nick Saban news, and I got to be honest with you, I am a little bit overwhelmed. I've got a sheet full of notes, and we can talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. Jumping in on the comments section on Facebook at Joe Gaither6, on Twitter, on YouTube as well, if you'd like to influence today's show in any direction. But I've got a bunch of notes. Before we get into it, I want to tell you about the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network with our friends Blue Collar Unplugged. Blake Byler, Matthew Gibson, and Jacob Pickle put out a new episode of Blue Collar Unplugged yesterday. The guys getting you into SEC play. It's a huge weekend for Alabama basketball, and we'll talk about that as well on the program towards the back half of the show. So what are we going to do today? What do you want to talk about? What do I want to talk about? Oh, goodness gracious. More news, more transfer portal action. Alabama is still ravaged by the 30-day transfer portal period. Nick Saban retires last Wednesday. You've gone 7, 8, 9 days into the transfer portal period. You've got roughly 21, 22 days left to endure guys potentially leaving the Alabama Crimson Tide. And who is it today and who is it yesterday after yesterday when we didn't do a show? Look, it's two 2024 early enrollees. One of them is our friend Julian Sayin. Julian Sayin's been on the program once. He did a one show with us last summer, and he did a phone call with me as well in the fall, just before the SEC, just before the LSU game. You can go back and listen to both those episodes if you're interested in it. But in both those episodes, Julian Sayin was very, very clear about looking forward to play for Nick Saban, looking forward to playing in the Alabama offense under Nick Saban. We talked about Tommy Rees's developing the offense through the year, and he was like, look, as long as Coach Saban is there, I trust whatever they're going to put on the field, trust whatever the system's going to be. And look, when Nick Saban retires rather abruptly or a little surprisingly to the roster and to the assistant coaches, you're going to have some changes. You're going to have some turnover, especially with the younger guys, the youngest guys, because they're not fully invested in. I mean, no disrespect to you, Julian Sayin, but you've been on campus since December 13 or so just over a month. You participated in bowl practice, and we appreciate you helping everybody get ready for the Rose Bowl. But it stands to reason that he's not necessarily all in on the Crimson Tide, especially when there's a huge regime change. Where did his coaches go that everybody who recruited him? Tommy Rees is without a job. Nick Saban is down in Florida in retirement. So the coaches that have, gotten to know Julian Sayin over the last handful of years, look, Bill O'Brien is now in Ohio State, and maybe you can read some of those tea leaves that might be where Julian Sayin ends up going. But you can understand these younger players who are not deep into their majors, these younger players who have not really invested a whole lot of time yet into the program are like, oh crap, the program that I committed to has severely changed. Yes, the facilities are all the same. The facilities are all the same, and the amenities are all the same. The locations are all the same, but the policies are different. The how is different. The why is different. Yes, I know Alabama still sells itself. You heard Coach Kalen DeBoer say that on Tuesday when he was introduced to the student section and introduced to the crowd at Coleman Coliseum. He said Alabama is the standard, and it is still the standard, and ideally Kellen DeBoer keeps it in the same place for the sake of Alabama fans and for the sake of the players that are still on the roster and just for the university as a whole. It's always more fun to cover a winning program. But you can understand, Caleb Downs, everybody that he committed to is gone. Nick Saban gone. Travaris Robinson is gone. You think about a guy like Caden Proctor. Caden Proctor commits to Eric Wolford, comes from Des Moines, Iowa, is a little bit homesick, and boom, his coach is gone. So these relationships that have been established over the course of not just the last 9, 10, 12 months for some of these freshmen, but longer, the last 2-3 years with some of these assistant coaches in recruiting. And now everything that you have come accustomed to is changing. So I want to kind of be a little bit cautionary or issue a caution to those Alabama fans who kind of say, oh, it's all about NIL. Oh, Caleb Downs, you're just leaving for a big old bag of money. Oh, Julian saying you don't want to compete with Ty Simpson and you don't want to compete with Jalen Milroe, this, that, and the other. Caden Proctor, you don't want to stick it out. You were blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Look, these bad things that you're saying about some of these players, I don't think that you have a full picture of really the situation. And Coach DeBoer said so on Saturday. He said, put yourselves in these guys' positions. You have committed to the University of Alabama. You've committed to play for one of the most legendary coaches of all time. And that coach retires and the entire staff turns over. So you understand some of these guys departing. Some more news. We saw Amari Niblack commit to Texas last night. That makes 3 Alabama players, Kendrick Blackshire, Amari Niblack, and Isaiah Bond, all with the Austin program. And we will see them maybe next year, but we'll see them in the future on the SEC schedules. Look, these guys got to go make the best decision for themselves. Why does it feel so bad right now? Because all the news is basically negative. All the news outside of hiring coaches, and Alabama's done a good job of doing that, filling most of the on-field position coaches. You got like 1 or 2 guys left positions left to fill. But all the news feels so bad because the 30-day transfer portal window is only going one way. And that's a very disappointing thing to see. Like, obviously, you're getting a little bit of get back from the University of Washington. You're seeing 5 Washington players coming from Seattle to Tuscaloosa into town this weekend for official visits. Only Austin Mack so far has committed, the 6'6" redshirt freshman quarterback. So you gain a quarterback, you lose a quarterback. I think that this is not a surprise. I think that today's news was not a surprise to head coach Kalen DeBoer. I think that basically he had some discussions with Julian Sayin and maybe his parents over the last 3-4 days and realized the writing was on the wall, and therefore he said to his previous quarterback, Austin Mack, who reportedly folks are very high on, Brock Heward, the former Colorado quarterback and Fox Sports analyst, basically is very high on Austin Mack. Now, he didn't play he didn't play at all last year. He reclassified into the 2023 class, so he should be a 2024, or he should be, he basically left high school as a junior. He started 1 year at high school quarterback. He threw like 40 touchdowns, threw for almost 3,000 yards in that one season, earned the scholarship offer to Washington, reclassified, redshirted, and now is in Tuscaloosa. So you got a lot of 3 or 4 Washington guys who have come to Tuscaloosa this weekend. So that's one area where you can get some of these guys back. But because the transfer portal window rule is only one way out, basically you can depart if you have a new coach. You're going to have to wait till the end of spring. You're going to have to wait till after fall camp to see Kalen DeBoer and to see really how he's going to really judge and see what tools are going to be in the toolbox going into the 2024 season. Now, you got a pretty good idea of a lot of players who have declared that they're staying for the next year. You've seen Jalen Milroe. I heard him as he walked into the facility last Friday night saying that he was staying. Obviously, Jahad Campbell has come out on Twitter today. Deontay Lawson has come out on Twitter. Jaden Roberts has come out on Twitter. Tyler Booker has come out on Twitter. You got a lot of guys who have come out and said, oh, we're rolling with the tide still. Jalen Mbakwe, who is out there on social media. You got a lot of guys who have said, okay, we are still staying with Alabama. So at the end of the day, you're going through fall camp, spring practice. And right now you're at 71, 72 scholarship athletes. And so you're going to have plenty to get through spring practice, and this is going to be a great opportunity for players to assert themselves or get themselves in good standing for fall practice going forward. And then you're going to hit the spring transfer window, and you're going to, basically be offering a chance to play big brain school. You're going to be offering a chance to look. The roster's a little thin. You want to prove yourself. This is a new regime. No promises given. Everything is earned. Obviously, you're probably going to expect that Jalen Milroe is still going to be the guy, and Tyler Booker is still going to be the guy, and Jaden Roberts still going to be the guy in those certain positions. But you really open everything up. And so I think it's a very, very exciting time for Alabama. And for Alabama fans, you're just going to have to hold on. You're just going to have to hunker down over the next 3 months. The next 3 months are still going to look rather rough. You're going to see You've seen 5 or 6 decommitments out of the 2025 class, and we can talk. You can read about that at BamaCentral.com right there on our recruiting rundown today. Every Friday, most Fridays, we put out recruiting rundown. You can read that at BamaCentral.com. You got five guys out of the 2025 class. You've lost 2 now. We just hit on Julian Sayin. Look, I think Julian Sayin was dead set on playing for Nick Saban. When that became off the table, I think that he was kind of open to playing for head coach Kalen DeBoer, but it seemed like maybe familial relationships, obviously. If you get a chance to play for a guy, if you go from Nick Saban to, Nick Saban's off the table, the offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien, who recruited him a lot of the time at Ohio State, I think he's going to end up a Buckeye or back in his hometown area of Southern Cal, playing for Lincoln Riley. And we wish him well. If you don't want to be here, that's A-okay. We understand relationships are part of it. The other 2024 who has departed, been released from his national letter of intent, is going to be Jameer Grimsley. Jameer Grimsley, a cornerback out of Tampa, Florida, 6'2", 6'3" cornerback, 4-star guy, out of Tampa Catholic, and enrolled early. I've seen him a couple of times with the Bama football contingent, but he has hit the transfer portal, and it's understandable. What was his main relationship here at the University of Alabama? It was Travaris Robinson. His coach, Jarris McIntyre, and Travaris Robinson both were teammates at the University of Auburn together, playing opposite sides of the ball. And I can't remember if Jarris McIntyre hosted Travaris Robinson or the other way around. Coach Robinson hosted Jarris McIntyre. Coach McIntyre was on our program in the summer telling that story. And so, look, you've got relationships at play. I want him to, I'm close with T-Rock. I bet you he ends up either at Florida, back home, or Miami, or at Georgia with Travaris Robinson. And this is just par for the course. You're going to have to hold on a little bit. You see a Washington 4-star cornerback get released from his national letter of intent. This is just par for the course. You're seeing Kalen DeBoer get his people into the program ASAP. And you understand why, because lots of people are going with their coaches and going with their people. So it's an exciting time. It's a huge weekend here at the Capstone, as you've got a lot of guys in for official visits. Here they are. You've got, let's see, Noah Carter. Noah Carter was first up. He was released out of his national letter of intent, 4-star edge rusher out of Arizona. He was signed with Washington. Coaching change happens, and now it looks like he is on his way to Tuscaloosa. He's taking an official visit this weekend. The name that you all know, the name that you all love, my man Ryan Williams is back on campus this weekend. Ryan Williams, I think, likes this staff. I think Ryan Williams is doing his due diligence and basically saying, okay, you're the new guys. I like Alabama. I have pre-existing relationships with these other schools, i.e. Auburn specifically. But Ryan Williams is a guy that you pretty much, if you're Kalen DeBoer, he is your Julio Jones. He's your guy you cannot miss out on. He's your guy that if Coach Saban told Julio Jones, we're going to win with or without you. And maybe that is Kalen DeBoer's message. But if you bag Ryan Williams in a couple of weeks, for February 9th on his birthday is when he plans to sign still, if you bag Ryan Williams into this class, then a ton of the angst, the worry, the anxiety is going to be relieved from the Alabama fan base. You bring in a guy like Ryan Williams, you secure him to the 2024 class, you get him enrolled. Look, he is going to be a dangerous weapon for 3 years, no matter where he goes. He's going to step on the college campuses next fall and be a dadgum. He's going to be electric. I cannot wait to see him play. But you got to get him here in Tuscaloosa. Kalen DeBoer, whatever it takes over the next 3 weeks. Very, very important. Ryan Williams is on campus in Tuscaloosa right now. So if you are here around town, you're traveling the places that the football players play, the football players hang out, make sure you keep an eye out for a young, little red, you got little red dreads, Ryan Williams. Make sure you give him a big old roll tide around the area. It'll be so fun to cover Ryan Williams over the next 2 to 3 and 4 years. Hopefully, he can be about rejoin this class. Continuing, you got a bunch of Washington fellas. You got Austin Mack. We already talked about him. Parker Brailsford. Austin Mack is taking an official visit, but he's already committed, so you can basically bank it. He's moving in this weekend. Parker Brailsford is the center for Washington. You guys all know you want a center to come in and snap the football to Jalen Milroe. 6'2", 275. So the man is a little bit undersized. But he was a semifinalist for the Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year Award in 2022 and was named second team All Pac-12 this past year. You all know Washington won the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line in the country. Parker Brailsford, I think you end up securing him and you're starting to feel better about yourself. You sandwich him right in between Tyler Booker and Jaden Roberts and you say, hey, Mr. Brailsford, we want you to put on 15 more pounds of muscle. I think that would be a big get for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Okay, we talked about Jabbar Muhammad just a little bit already on the show. Jabbar Muhammad is the kind of big star cornerback. He's got 1 year of eligibility left. He started 15 games this past year for Washington, second team All Pac-12. He was 7th in the country in pass breakup. So basically, Jabbar Muhammad is basically between Alabama and Texas. And when Texas is at play, I'm sure that they are throwing him a lot of money to think about going to Texas. So Jabbar, you're going to have to decide if you want to, help your old coach, your new coach here in Tuscaloosa, and play in the SEC. I guess what will help your draft stock more? What will be more beneficial for you long term? A short-term payday at Texas, now that might get you drafted as well in the first or second round, or a lesser payday at Alabama, and hopefully development all the same. So we'll see what happens with Jabbar Muhammad. But with all the defensive backs that you've already lost, 7 defensive backs to the transfer portal, and then you got to think about the defensive backs who have gone into the draft. Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terry and Arnold have gone into the draft. So, oh man, you got to get some defensive back help in here ASAP, or you might be relying on Jalen Mbakwe right off the bat, a young true freshman out of Clay Chalkville just up the road. Okay, you still keep rolling. You've got Washington receiver Jeremy Bernard. It looks like Germ is how it's spelled, but I think it's kind of a play off Jeremy. Jeremy Bernard, he played in 14 of the 15 games for Washington this past year. 34 catches, 400 yards, speedy guy, 2 years of eligibility. That Washington wide receiver room was packed. It was absolutely packed. So it's hard to get a whole lot of playing time. But you come to Tuscaloosa, you've seen what's happened to the Alabama wide receivers. You've seen Ja'Cory Brooks. You've seen Jermaine Burton. You saw Isaiah Bond. Oh, gone. You've got, Kobe Prentice is back. You got Jalen Hale is back. So you got, it's not completely empty. I like what you have in Amari Jefferson. I like what you have in Rico Scott. And if you bring in Ryan Williams, that's going to be loaded. Kendrick Law as well. But wide receiver is a position of need at the moment, as is offensive line. So it'd be great to scoop all 5 of those Washington Huskies this weekend. The biggest kind of at-risk guy, I think, is Jabbar Muhammad. I think the 2 linemen and Jeremy Bernard are going to be announcing their, commitment or their transfer to Tuscaloosa fairly soon. But Jabbar Muhammad, the cornerback, I think he's probably got a pretty nice offer from Texas to decide if he wants what he wants to do with. So where are we in the program? We're 20 minutes in. Like I said, it's been a whirlwind week. We've been talking about transfers out. We were talking about recruits in. We've talked a little bit about why it feels so bad in Alabama, just because of the window is so large and really it only goes one way. If I'm the NCAA, look, maybe they don't make a huge change just because this affected Alabama. But if you continue to see this happen, rosters getting raided in periods where the transfer portal is not mutually open, then it's going to become a problem nationwide. Look, do I have a problem with these guys transferring out? No, not at all. My biggest issue is Kalen DeBoer. Basically, his only the only store that's open right now is Washington. And yeah, you're going to get guys from your previous school. He's going to bring them up. But your other schools that you think, we'd like a guy from Georgia, or we'd like a guy from Texas or Ohio State, or we'd like to, offer your backup tackle, whoever, whatever school. Those schools aren't open. Those stores aren't open. So it's not really a fair exchange of, look, let Caleb Downs go to Georgia. If that's where you want to end up going, young man, go be happy, make a career out of yourself. Will it stink? Will I be personally, not happy to see you in other uniforms? Sure. But it's fine. Everything is A-okay. We'll cover the safeties that are here on BamaCentral.com, and we'll cover Caleb Downs from afar as former Alabama. And look, Caleb can still come back. He hasn't made any sort of announcements. But the whole point is there's just not this mutual reciprocity that happens when the transfer portal is actually open. So I don't have any issue about, the coach retires, the coach is fired, and your roster can make any decision. But the incoming coach ought to be able to get other guys from, have the ability to, maybe, I don't want to say poaching, but yeah, poach from other rosters as well, like Alabama has been poached with over the last 7 or 8 days. We talked a little bit about Amari Niblack going to Texas. You got Amari Niblack and Isaiah Bond going to Texas with Kendrick Blackshire. And look, I don't mean to be rude. I don't mean to be mean, but my first thoughts immediately go to Ajayi Hall, Jaleel Billingsley, and Ben Davis going over to Texas, 3 years ago? And look, I wish them the best as well, but it just look, at least for Ajayi Hall, he was out of school, and he barely even made it to fall camp. Jaleel Billingsley was suspended halfway through the season, and Ben Davis played and got into action for Texas, and that seemed to be a better fit for him, and we wish him well, absolutely. So Keelan Robinson found a little bit of a special teams role with Texas over the last 2 or 3 years. Obviously, Isaiah Bond's going to be utilized, and Amari Niblack is a talented player. He absolutely is. But look, every time you turn on the tape, you saw Isaiah Bond, make some plays. You saw Amari Niblack. He did not want to block. He didn't want to block anybody. He didn't want to block your little sister. He didn't want to block your little cousin. He didn't want to block anyone. It was patty cakes when it was time to block. Look, my first thought goes back to the national championship game. I believe it was in overtime. Amari Niblack is off to the edge, and Jalen Milroe is rolling out. Jalen Milroe points at someone for him to block, and Amari looks at him like, "What, man? Throw me what? What? Throw me what?" And they all get into each other's way, and it ends up being like a gain of 1 when it should have been probably 5, 6, 7, 8 yard game. The young man doesn't want to be physical. Now, in Texas, he's going to find a place. Steve Sarkisian is a hell of a coach. He's a hell of a coach, and he's going to put him in a place where he doesn't have to do a whole lot of blocking. He's going to be a receiving tight end, and he's probably going to be pretty damn good at it. Quinn Ewers is probably going to be thankful to have him next year along with Isaiah Bond. Now it ain't Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell. Isaiah Bond doesn't hold a candle to either of those receivers, in my opinion. I really, really like A.D. Mitchell. I know a lot of people love Xavier Worthy as the better wide receiver, but as far as big games go, golly, A.D. Mitchell, he catch a touchdown pass in every single playoff game that he played? He balled out against Alabama pretty much every single time he played Alabama. I really, really like Adonai Mitchell, and maybe my Bears can get him in a second, third round on some good value. We'll see. But Isaiah Bond's not those guys. He's not those guys. Is he better than Ajayi Hall? Of course, yes, by far. And same with Amari Niblack. Amari Niblack's not the tight end that Texas is replacing. Let's see, who is that young man? Texas tight end draft prospect. Is number 0, right? Yeah, Jatavion Sanders, number 0. He's not Amari Niblack is not Jatavion Sanders, but he's a whole lot better than Jaleel Billingsley was. So I know my brain goes automatically to, Ajayi Hall, Jaleel Billingsley, Ben Davis. No, the Blackshire, Isaiah Bond, and Amari Niblack trio are better than the trio that went to Texas 3 years ago. But look, this is not worth crying over. This is not worth crying. We can start, Alabama fans and the Alabama beat, the Alabama public can start to cry after Kalen DeBoer gets his time in the spring transfer window. Now, you can kind of cry foul on the process that you still have 21 days left to endure the coaching change transfer window. But I think that right now, guys are going to make, look, all the guys that went to Florida State, you say, good on you. Have a great time and go Noles, I guess. We'll see you in 2 years in 2025. It's head coach Kalen DeBoer's time here in Tuscaloosa. All right, before I transition to basketball, we want to thank everybody who's been watching us. We've got a lot of people watching us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. You can watch us at Joe Gaither 6. You can find me on all the social medias, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, at Joe Gaither 6. You can send me a like, comment, question, query, or a complaint right there. We want to appreciate everybody who's been listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on Amazon. We're seeing those numbers creep up slowly and surely, and we appreciate everybody who's watched us and joined us through the coaching transition. Tell a friend about the show, the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. We try to do it Monday through Friday. It's been crazy over the last couple of weeks. So look, Kalen DeBoer was on Paul Feinbaum's show earlier today, right at 4 o'clock. And I found him to be incredibly boring, but maybe that's exactly the way you want it. You can read about his appearance on the Paul Feinbaum show with right there, BamaCentral.com. Katie Wyndham wrote that. And the biggest takeaway that Katie had was really probably the biggest takeaway that I had. He said, we want players who want to be here. And so referring to the players who have transferred out, you've got a lot of people concerned, is the sky falling? The dynasty's dead. No, you want players who want to be here. You want players who have good relationships with the coaches that are coming in. You basically, does it stink to lose a lot of Saban guys? Yeah, it does, just from a sentimental standpoint. But Alabama, I think, has the potential to basically use this as kind of a springboard. Kind of a springboard going forward. Not to say that the Saban system got stale, but, you've seen the re-energized, you've seen the bump in Yale Alabama memberships. I think you've seen 1,200 new memberships into Yale Alabama since Coach Saban's retirement. Do I think it's right or wrong that somebody working a 9-to-5 job should be donating NIL to these guys? That's not really a fair discussion, but that's the way it is. I don't think it's right. I wish that you would kind of find a way to divide the television revenue pile up, but you're not going to do that right now because the way not specifically just Alabama, but college athletics as a whole already has their budgets done several years in advance and is counting on that money to go to different projects and pay for different things. And so you understand that. But it's exciting to see 1,200 new subscriptions to Yay Alabama, and you can do that at yay-alabama.com. Our friend Jay McPhillips joining us in the fall. We'd like to get Jay McPhillips back on here pretty soon to talk about the excitement. Look, all 50 states are now represented. You've been seeing that map on social media with a lot of empty states. Well, they're all represented now. Is Kalen DeBoer really a springboard? I know he hasn't been exciting in front of a microphone or in front of a camera yet. But that 104-12 record is pretty daggum exciting. So let me know what you think of Kalen DeBoer, what you think of him bringing in Austin Mack, what you think of these assistant coaches. We've hired Colin Hitchler out of Wisconsin for co-defense coordinator from Wisconsin, probably going to be a secondary coach along with Maurice Linguiste. I'll have to warn if I'm saying that name pronounced. Linguiste. We'll see. It looks French to me, so it makes me want to say French. Makes me want to say it in kind of a linguiste. But we'll see about how the new coaching staff gels together. I'd like to know what you think of the new coaching staff right there on our social media pages. Or we've got comments in the BamaCentral article down below. You can sign in and leave your comments on the BamaCentral article if you're watching us on BamaCentral.com. All right, let's get out of here by talking basketball. Well, obviously football carries the weight, and we've been talking football for 30 minutes, and we appreciate everybody who's listened or watched us on all the outlets we mentioned, 2 minutes ago. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock on ESPN, right? Tomorrow, 1 o'clock on ESPN2, excuse me. You're going to have Alabama and Tennessee in a huge game at Tennessee, Thompson-Boling Arena. Very, very, intense environment. Thompson-Boling Arena is one of the bigger stadiums in the SEC. Tennessee ranked 6th in the country. They have won their last 2 games, beating Florida, beating Georgia. They smacked Ole Miss in the SEC opener. Yeah, they really haven't played a close game except for the game that they lost against Mississippi State. They lost on the road to Mississippi State 77-72. Look, you all know you've been listening to the program. I appreciate it. You all know Alabama 4-0 in SEC play. But let's be honest with ourselves. Are the 4 teams that Alabama's beaten necessarily world beaters? No. Vanderbilt not doing well. South Carolina was picked to finish last in the league, doing better, but they were not picked to be playing as well as they are. Mississippi State, that's a good win. And then Missouri, they're falling on a little bit of hard times as well. This is easily the biggest game of the season so far for Alabama. Look, you can talk about playing Purdue in Canada. You can talk about playing Arizona out there in Phoenix, and you can talk about playing out at Creighton. Yes, I know the rivalry runs deep with Creighton. I can play that game with you too, basketball only guns. I hate Creighton too, bleep the Blue Jays. But here's the biggest game of the season on Saturday. Look, you lost them. You lost to Creighton, you lost to Arizona, you lost to Purdue. You lost to Clemson, you lost to Ohio State. You've basically lost to every tournament level team that you've been playing this year. Sorry, Mississippi State, you beat them, so you get a win right there. But look, this is a huge game. Dalton Knecht is playing at an SEC Player of the Year level. So is Mark Sears. Mark Sears is not 100%. You can read about that at BamaCentral.com. Oh, my gosh. If Mark Sears is not at 100% on Saturday, ooh, boy, what's it going to be, Grant Nelson? Are you going to finally find the offensive end in SEC play? Yeah, I know he had 13 points this past week on Tuesday against Missouri. Look. Does the Missouri win count on the record book? Absolutely it counts. But is it really worth a whole lot as far as we can take stuff away? No. You're wanting to measure yourself against the Tennessees, against the Auburns, against the Kentuckys. And I know Arkansas hasn't been playing well this year, but against the talent level of an Arkansas as well. So look, it's huge on tomorrow. 1 o'clock, you're an underdog. You win, you put Tennessee to 3-2 on the SEC schedule, on the standings. You move to 5-0. Who's Auburn playing tomorrow? Let's see if Auburn has a chance to lose. You move to 5-0. Auburn has Ole Miss, so they're probably going to take care of Ole Miss. You got to hold serve with the Auburn Tigers. You'll probably still be tied with the Auburn Tigers, but you bump Tennessee to basically 2 games back and the tiebreaker. 2 games back in the time. Like, it is a huge, huge game for Alabama. Yeah, it's a top 10 win that you don't have on your resume. It's a top 10 road win that you don't have on your resume. Look, can it be done? Yes, it can be done. Do I expect it to be done? No, I don't. What have we seen? What have we seen in these matchups before? I mean, history is the best indicator of future performance. The past 3 times Alabama has gone on the road, yes, Purdue wasn't a true road game. It was neutral in Canada, but that was a daggone road game. You held the lead, got into the second half, lost it. You went to Arizona, another road game right down the road from the University of Arizona. You had the lead, got into the second half, had the lead, lost it. And you went up to Creighton, first true road test of the year. You had the lead, got into the second half, had the lead, last 5-7 minutes, lost it. So that's been what, 4 or 5 weeks from 4 weeks ago? Yeah, roughly 4 weeks ago, middle of December. Alabama on a 6-game winning streak right now. Have they learned any lessons? Sure. You look over the last 6 games, you've beaten, Eastern Kentucky, right? You beat Liberty. Okay, like you took care of some games that you should have won. Here's your moment right here, Alabama. If you want to win the SEC title, Coach Nate Oates, you want to defend that SEC championship. You win on Saturday, you go a long way. Especially because it's on the road. Because Tennessee's got to come to Tuscaloosa. We'll see. Look, the idea is to split with Tennessee and split with Auburn, and then you win the rest of your games, and you're sitting pretty winning the league. But it starts tomorrow. And you got to have Mark Sears healthy. And if he's not healthy, he's got to defer to Aaron Estrada, and Aaron Estrada's got to take the lead. And you got to get more out of Grant Nelson on the offensive end. Yes, he had 13 on Tuesday against Missouri. Keep it going. Can we get 13, 15 out of you on Saturday? Can we get you, basically being an extra guy that they have to guard on the wing. It helps the spacing when you're making that three-point shot. And maybe the biggest thing that Grant Nelson did on Tuesday was make that three-point shot, the first shot that he took on Tuesday from the wing. Spaced out the rest of the floor. It allows Mark Sears and Aaron Estrada to get into the lane, to dump that pass off to Nick Pringle. Look, it's going to be a challenge tomorrow. Rick Barnes coaches his tail off. I'm going to predict that Alabama loses in a close game. We'll go 82-77. That's just in my gut right here. 82-77 Tennessee Vols, and we're going to all feel disappointed. But maybe, look, here's the deal. In SEC play, the offense has not been as great, but the defense and the effort has taken a huge jump. And so aesthetically, watching these guys play, watching this team play has been much more pleasurable, at least from my point of view. Like, yeah, you love great offense. You love getting up and down the floor, shooting threes, but it's the defensive effort. And you saw it against Missouri this past Tuesday. You saw it 2 Tuesdays ago against South Carolina, really, really heavily. South Carolina went like 15 minutes without hitting a bucket in the second half. So the defensive intensity has taken a big jump over in the last 4 games since the SEC season started. Look, that's the only reason you beat Mississippi State, because of the defensive intensity, because you're winning the blue collar. So Tennessee, they do the same stuff. They play hard. They're going to demand 40 minutes out of you tomorrow. We'll be able to follow it right there, BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. I'm looking forward to it. And I actually will have the follow from today's NATO's press conference written for tomorrow's cover on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. All right. Anything else we should get into for today? I know I've been crazy. I've had all kinds of topics. I've had all kinds of thoughts. It's been like drinking through a fire hose over the last 7 days. And maybe that was the reason I didn't do a show yesterday. I couldn't organize my thoughts near it all. And I've had a difficult time organizing my thoughts today. But look, for the Alabama fans, hang in there. I think you're going to get some good news from these Washington guys pretty soon, these Washington players in the transfer portal. Look, you want to get all 5. You've already got 1 of them. I think that you have a great chance to get 4 out of the 5. You want to get them. 2 weeks from now, Ryan Williams signs February 9th. In that 2 weeks, what does that look like? That is 3 weeks. 3 weeks exactly from the day Ryan Williams signs. Ideally, if he signs with Alabama, won't that quell all your worries? You're going to get into spring practice. We'll see if we got more access to spring practice. And then he's going to have the transfer portal to go shopping and fill the rest of his roster. Yes, I know it feels like the sky is falling. You've lost, 26, 27 players into the transfer portal, and now Alabama is below the scholarship limit for the first time in quite a while. Usually Alabama hovers right on that 85, 86 line. So just be patient. Give Kalen DeBoer a little more time. It's only been right at a week since he was introduced, and we'll keep covering everything that he does on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. So stay with us. We'll get out of here for the day. We'll turn it over to, the rest of the night. You got gymnastics, live updates on BamaCentral.com. We'll see if the ladies can keep it going. The ladies defeated Missouri last weekend. It was a great time to be in Coleman Coliseum. Maybe you're moving to Coleman Coliseum right now. The gymnastics are live updates on BamaCentral.com, and then we will be all over Alabama basketball against Tennessee at 1 p.m. In Thompson Bowling Arena on BamaCentral.com. You can follow us at BamaCentral on X, at Alabama Crimson Tide on Sports Illustrated on Facebook, at BamaCentral SI on Instagram. I am Joe Gaither. You are the listener, the viewer. I really appreciate you so much. I love you so much for watching and for listening. I appreciate it. Tell a friend about the program on YouTube, on Facebook, or on Twitter, or listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on Amazon. Subscribe, rate, and review the show. We will be back with more on another edition of the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com.